It's not just chatter anymore. Penn State is becoming one of the juggernauts in real time of college men's hockey.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That is right. You are locked on to Penn State men's hockey, and thank you so much for checking out another edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. My name is Zach Seyko, and I am your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State football and wrestling. He is Eric Ohlson, color commentator for the Penn State men's hockey radio broadcast team, returning to the show to talk about the latest developments here. Not one, but two elite prospects committing to Penn State. One for the present, one for the future, but we're going to talk about them and also just how well this team is positioned going into next season now that the likes of Jackson Smith specifically is committed. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us a part of your regular routine. If you're not one, become one. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcast. Eric, let's begin with Jackson Smith before we go to Mbuyi. Both of these players are 5-star prospects. Jackson Smith is projected as a top 10 NHL draft pick in due time. And Smith would be a part of this nucleus for Penn State men's hockey. So that's why I can say that, yes, it's not just chatter anymore. They are truly becoming one of the juggernauts of college men's hockey. What is to like about Jackson Smith and why he can contribute right away for Penn State this upcoming season?
He's a big guy. He's 6'3", I believe over 200 pounds. And with that size, he can skate, which is, not a common thing for every player that size, which is why I think he's so attractive to NHL teams right now and why he's projected to be, maybe the 10th overall selection, or I've also seen some that have him in like the 12 to 14 range. But either way, he should be a top 15 pick coming up next week in LA with the draft. And you get a left-handed defenseman that is that big, can move the puck, can skate, and contribute offensively. This past season, he had 54 points in 68 games. The year before, he had 29 points. So that's an explosion in production out of the Western Hockey League. So really good player for the Tri-City Americans, and his size, his ability to move pucks is extremely attractive. So he's going to come into Penn State and be a big factor on that blue line. And his size, you got Kay Christensen, who's a big, strong guy too. Matt Godowski is a tall defenseman as well. Yeah. And then you got the physical presence of Jared Crespo. And, you get in Casey Ahman being able to play both sides of the ice, contribute offensively, move the puck. Nick Fascia back there. And then Collins coming in as another recruit on the blue line, who is an excellent player as well. So Jackson Smith is going to be joining what was already going to be a really strong blue line coming back for Penn State, and it just got even stronger with him. We know that Carter Shade unfortunately wasn't able to play at the end of the season with a lower body injury. I don't know what his status will be for the beginning of the season, if he'll be healthy in time, if not. But when he is ready to play, you got a Carter Shade in there as well. So Penn State's blue line should be the best group of players they've ever had as a program.
Jackson Smith, one of the first players that Penn State was linked to, now actually coming to fruition here with him verbally committing and projected to join the Nittany Lions. So he will, of course, have, but things like it's not done until it's done, but he wouldn't have announced his verbal commitment had that not been the case. Let's pivot to a little bit further out in the future so that nobody's confused here. Mbuyi is one of the top prospects and one of the best commits Penn State could land in over the past 5 years, but he is not joining in the present. This will not be for the upcoming team, but will be for next season. So Mbuyi is a year out, but he's, offensively gifted as it gets. He was one of the top goal scorers in the OHL recently, and he actually was OHL Rookie of the Year. Connor McDavid, Wayne Gretzky won that kind of honor as well. This is a player that should not be overlooked, even though he is further out in the future. So where Jackson Smith brings elite defense, Pierce Mbuyi brings elite offense.
Yeah, he's a smaller guy right now. He's about 5'10", I think maybe around 150 pounds. So I've seen some articles out there that are comparing him to maybe an Aiden Fink right now. And Mbuyi, you mentioned the production he has. He's right now would be the highest forward ever drafted by Penn State, because he should be in the 26th class next year and is a projected first round pick, could be top 15. So that's kind of where his situation is looking right now, but a super talented forward to get. And anytime you can have a first round draft pick on your team, it's awesome. And they have some really good forwards that are coming in this year right now. Out of the CHL, you have Shane Van Olm. Out of the Western Hockey League, you have Lev Katzen, who he's projected to be around. I saw a projection today that had him around 113 coming up in the draft next week. So that's a forward that's going to be drafted really high as well for Penn State. And then, Serrato should be drafted as well. So they're going to have, you're bringing in this talent already that they've signed. And you're just meshing it with what you have returning from next year, which is basically every single consequential forward on your team, production-wise, outside of Danny Geniev. Dylan Lugris played a big role. Obviously, it didn't have a big production offensively, but still a very important player. Geniev was up there in points, playing top 6 minutes, but he's the only subtraction. And then you're adding Andrew Kuzma to the mix as well, who wasn't able to play all last year.
Don't forget about him. Yeah.
Penn State's forward group this year should be incredibly strong with what they have and what's returning. And on defense, we've already talked about how strong they could be there. The question is, will it all mesh? You still have to put it all together. Certainly nothing is set in stone, but on paper, this is a very, very good-looking Penn State team right now.
That is the perfect segue, because now with Jackson Smith in the fold, we'll see. Do they need a Gavin McKenna? Do they need a Porter Martone? Michael Misa, that would be great for Penn State. Of course, they would never turn them away. But Eric, with what you've talked about, just how good is this team? Should they be the favorite going into next season? We're going to talk about that more coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. You'll get surprising insights. When I started using Monarch for myself, I realized just how much I was spending on things like groceries or subscriptions, dining out. Now I get to budget smarter and save more. You get all in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, plan long-term goals. You get easy collaboration moving forward. Managing money with your partner, it's smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for, get this, 50% off your first year. That's right, 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. So yes, at this point in time, at the recording of this podcast, Gavin McKenna is still out there, Porter Martone, Michael Misa, who is the brother of Luke Misa, who is committed to Penn State. But Luke Misa, Jackson Smith joined this nucleus that, Eric, Penn State fans should be extremely excited about. And it's all, you could say, yeah, chemistry is going to be a big part of this. And I agree. You need to be able to mesh it all together. But I can't help but think that Penn State should be conservatively a top 5 team going into next season with what you return with Aiden Fink as the face of your team, guys who you can plug and play right away, regardless of chemistry or anything like that, if everything goes correctly, right? So, take injuries out of the equation, that kind of thing. But Jackson Smith can play right away. A guy, yes, someone who we already just mentioned in Luke Misa could play right away. So it's crazy that Penn State to think that they wouldn't need, you would like to have them because of what you were returning and then what you've already added to this point. So this conversation isn't necessarily about McKenna, Martone, the other Misa brother. It's about what Penn State has right now, because this is a top 5 elite team, and somebody that is a national title contender could easily find their way back into the Frozen Four if everything goes according to plan. They have it, and then you add somebody like Guy Gadowski's son through the transfer portal. So this team is better on paper than what they had a season ago.
Yeah, I mean, when Mac went into the portal, all of a sudden you knew, okay, he's probably going to Penn State. And, he was kind of the first real addition to the team for next year. And you're like, man, you get a Hobie Baker top 10 finalist. That's awesome to add on the blue line. And now, you get Collins coming from the CHL, and then you add Jackson Smith to that. And you're like, oh my gosh, like this blue line could be legit. And I forgot to even mention Luke Misa, who should be a pretty, good draft pick as well, for Penn State now that he's committed. So yeah, on paper, a great team. Can you make the case for a top 5 team? Probably. Other programs are certainly loading up on talent as well, which is why it's always hard to kind of make those projections as to who's top 5, who's top 10, and all that. But
McKenna's still out there, right? Martone's out there, and they could join one of those teams that already has top 5 consideration.
Yeah, and that can really tilt the scales in a team's direction. So,
a good point.
A lot of unknown out there, and even on paper, you could have the best roster ever created and not win a national championship.
It's crazy to think.
That's how crazy of a sport hockey is. And you look at the best teams, on paper, but also record-wise from this past season, and they weren't the ones in the Frozen Four. Western Michigan had a great record. BU had a great record. Denver had a really strong record as well. And then you had Penn State in there. But you didn't have Boston College. You didn't have Minnesota. You didn't have Michigan State. You didn't have Maine. Those were all year long top 4, top 5 teams in the pairwise. So again, you could create the best roster. But if it all doesn't click at the right time, it doesn't matter. You could be out in the first game of the tournament, like Michigan State was, like Minnesota was. Again, brought up on the last show, Ohio State gets thumped by BU 8-3. Penn State loses 3-1 in the Frozen Four on an empty net. So that was a 2-1 game going into the last couple minutes. Hockey is all about building over the course of a season, and then you need the postseason, everything to click. And even then, you could play a great game, still doesn't go your way. There's so many variables in hockey, and that's what makes it an unbelievable sport, because you can get magical runs, you can get magical moments, upsets. Sometimes you do get the best team winning, but that's a really, really hard thing to do. So you're going to see teams now with this new era of the CHL players. They're going to try to build the best possible roster they can. But then you still got training camp. You still have a 34-game regular season. You still have your conference tournament, then the NCAA tournament, all to try to get a national championship. And, those names that are still out there can certainly tilt the scale your direction. But who's to say it's enough to put you over the top?
Penn State is in the mix for Gavin McKenna, Porter Martone. Again, Michael Misa, the brother of Luke Misa, who is already committed. So we could be having follow-up conversations about them if they do have, again, Penn State, there are rumors that have strongly linked them, all of those players, to the Nittany Lions. This isn't by accident. NHL insiders or just guys that are strongly invested in college hockey say, hey, all signs point to Happy Valley. So we will wait and see there. But Penn State fans should at least feel good about where Guy Gadowski and the Nittany Lions stand with some of the best blue chip prospects in the history of the program if they were to land them. Eric, let's finish on this. The only question mark that I have about this team at this point in time, yes, chemistry, of course, because you are bringing a lot of new players that will have an influence on the team. But I do think with what you were bringing back in Aiden Fink, and again, guys that are veterans on the team that know how the program goes. So I don't really think there's going to be that much of an adjustment period. So in the beginning of the season, maybe slightly a little bit bumpy, but as the season progresses, hey, this team should be peaking at the right time if all things go well. It's going to be goaltending. I don't think Penn State's going to have any problem scoring goals. It is going to be, how do you replace the production of Arseny Sergeyev? That is the only question mark that I have about this team.
Yeah, and they're going to have two goalies that are new to the team, Raylor and Fleming. We'll wait and see what happens with those guys. We know what Arseny was able to do for the team, and how in moments where they needed him in a game, he was able to rise to the occasion and make that extra save. So we'll see what happens there. But if you have a really strong team in front of a goalie, it certainly helps. Helps special teams. You're on the penalty kill. You need a strong kill unit to help your goalie out, and then sometimes you need your goalie to be your best penalty killer. And at times, Sergeyev was able to do that for Penn State. So certainly, maybe some question marks in that, just because we haven't seen them play yet. But I know these goalies are here for a reason, and Giuliano Pagliaro is great at having an eye for goalies. He was a goalie himself. So he was a big part of the recruiting process for Sergeyev. I know he was a big part of the recruiting process for Raylor, and he helped recruit Fleming. So these goalies are here for a reason, and they should be pretty good. So a lot of excitement. It's June. The draft is coming up. The Stanley Cup is going to be awarded this week as well, which is always exciting. And what a time to be a hockey fan, especially for Penn State. So training camp's going to be right around the corner in August and September. And then all of a sudden it's the beginning of October and we go to Arizona State.
He is the color commentator for the Penn State men's hockey radio broadcast, Eric Ohlson, over on the other side, bringing some expertise to the show. My name is Zach Seyko, your host of Locked On Nittany Lions. As always, thank you to the everydayers for making us a part of your regular routine. Thank you to each and every one of you for checking out this episode. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments section. Eric, thank you so much for the time again. Really appreciate it. Quicker turnaround as these two prospects had committed, and we'll see what happens in the not too distant future, but can't wait to talk to you again, whether it's about other fellow commitments or previewing what's to come for this Penn State men's hockey team. Thank you for the conversation as always.
Yeah, sounds good.